Hey, dirtbag! Yoo-hoo! Dirtbag! Hey, dirtbag!
What the hell do you want?
Just checking you got a handle on your new name.
I want to take you back to the middle of the 90s for a bit, as it was an interesting time for video games. We were just finishing up an amazing few years of the 16-bit era thanks to the console war between Sega and Nintendo. Many great games came from this time, and most of the titles that were coming out then are considered classics now. But of course, nothing can last forever, and something huge was on its way. 3D gaming was coming into existence, which was completely changing how we viewed video games. The N64 and Sony PlayStation changed the name of the game forever, and most people thought, like, this is it. There's absolutely no way the gaming industry was going to be able to shock and wow us again before we crossed into the next millennium. Little did we know that Nintendo wasn't quite done yet. At this time, the Game Boy had been around for a long time now, and most people probably figured that Nintendo was prepping for their next handheld. But Nintendo was about to show that they had one more card up their sleeve that was going to knock the world on its ass. And as you can tell by the title, that phenomenon was Pokemon. And if you were around this time, you were going to need some preparation H for those hemorrhoids you created for yourself when you explosively shit your pants at the sight of Pokemon Red and Blue. Back in 1996 to the year 2000, Pokemon was everywhere. You had the games, the cartoon, toys, cards, a whole bunch of different merchandise. Even companies like Burger King were jumping on the Pokemon money train. Honestly, I would have doubted there was unlicensed Pokemon condoms, and I'm sure they would have sold too. You slapped that yellow rat's face on anything back then and it was going to be sold out before you knew it. So at this point, a lot of people were craving a 3D Pokemon game. Two of the biggest medias in gaming at the time potentially coming together? You're damn right people wanted it. But what would be the best way to bring Pokemon to the N64? An RPG? The system desperately needed those kind of games, or perhaps even a battle simulator. To me, that makes the most sense to be the first Pokemon game on a home console. But the day came and... what the fuck is this? No, like seriously, what the fuck is this? A picture game? Even Nintendo knew people were going to be confused, like, look at the back of the box. They had to let people know that this was a game and not a camera. If you were to look at this game today, you'd probably think, what the hell were they thinking? How could they think this was even going to sell? Especially when it wasn't even going to be a Pokemon game at first. Yeah, I guess it was originally going to be based on a more realistic setting, but it seems even Nintendo knew most people wouldn't have bought into the concept and thought, hey, we should add Pokemon. Everyone loves Pokemon. Pokemon is life now. Because we say it is. And it's pretty clear that decision paid off big time, because at the end of 1999, Pokemon Snap sold 1.5 million copies, not to mention the high rental rate this game had. Nintendo took no time to capitalize on this game. I remember seeing this game being promoted heavily, especially the sticker printer functionality thing they promoted with Blockbuster. It was pretty ingenious when you think about it. People couldn't get enough of Pokemon, and this was a highly rented game. So when people go to return the game, kids were going to see this bulky Pokemon box and say, I want this, Mom and Dad! And parents saw that it only cost $4 a pop to print off some stickers? There was some serious coin made with this game. I never had access to the printer because I think Canada didn't participate in the promotion, but don't you worry. I still got my stickers. Gotta catch 'em all. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting into fucked up reviews territory, so I'll stop now. Maybe. But that wasn't all. Nintendo even partnered up with a company called LodgeNet, where they included N64s and copies of Pokemon Snap to over 86,000 hotels, just to capitalize on the franchise during the holiday travel season. If that doesn't show just how much of a phenomenon Pokemon was at this time, I don't know what will. But I haven't even started talking about the game yet, so I guess the best place to start is the plot of the game, provided by the manual. God, I love manuals of this era. Check this out. One day, a talented young photographer named Todd receives an interesting letter from Professor Oak, the famous Pokemon researcher, and I'm gonna stop it right there for a bit. I don't know about you guys, but Oak looks kinda off to me. Kinda derpy. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that face kinda creeps me out. Anyway, back to the letter. Dear Todd, my name is Professor Oak, and I research Pokemon. I heard of your excellent work as a photographer and would like your assistance in my research. I am currently doing research on Pokemon Island. Wild Pokemon are the only creatures who would live on this island, making it the perfect place to study Pokemon in their natural habitat. Okay, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that this is the only island on your fictional universe that is strictly populated by Pokemon only? Something seems sketchy here, but whatever, back to the letter. I have thought of asking Pokemon trainers to help me, but I am afraid they would become too interested in catching Pokemon on the island. If that happened, the number of Pokemon on the island would decrease, and Pokemon Island would lose its value. Okay, I got you figured out now, you dirty son of a bitch. Oak ain't looking for research. Oak is looking to capitalize on this island. Think about it. He doesn't want trainers there, fearing they'll catch some of the Pokemon and lower the island's value. Key word here, value. So instead he hires a photographer to take the best pictures possible for research. Bullshit. He wants the best pictures possible because this motherfucker is trafficking Pokemon and he wants proof that his Pokemon is worth top dollar to his potential buyers. But anyway, Pokemon Snap is a first-person on-rail shooter where the goal of the game is go through 7 locations taking pictures of Pokemon, which you'll take back to Professor Oak where he'll rate them and give you scores on them. Fascinating, I know, but surprisingly, even now the game still pulled me in. I'm not sure how, but it did. I don't know, maybe it's because I haven't touched games since I was a kid and it was tugging on my nostalgic heartstrings, but what can I say? Trying to get the best scores possible was addicting. At certain points of the game, Professor Oak will give you access to a couple items to help you get some better shots. The first is an apple that can be used to lure Pokemon in certain areas, which could provoke one of those special poses. Or you could always beam them in the back of the head and piss them off, such as here. Guaranteed if that was in real life, I'd be killed and not quick either. I think my body parts would be...
hold it there, and up there.
The next item you'll get is a Pester Ball. A ball that has gas in it which will knock a Pokemon out if you throw it at him. That's just mean. Another reason why I think Oak is cruel and full of shit. It's no wonder he has humans prohibited from this island. This sadistic bastard is luring Pokemon with apples and giving them violent roofies to knock them out instantly. Then sell them for a high price. And people respect this guy? Seriously? Near the end, you'll get the Pokeflute to trigger certain Pokemon events such as Snorlax dancing, and that always creeps me out. Like, seriously, could you imagine a female one trying to give you a lap dance? Nope, no, you get the fuck out of here with that big butt of yours. I like my legs and would like to continue using them too. Seriously, who fucking hired you?
Yes!
And lastly, you can acquire the Dash engine to go through the stages faster and possibly watch some events you wouldn't have been able to see normally. And that's pretty much the perfect summarization of this game's gameplay. Throughout each level, you're gonna go through them, provoking the natural habitat to get the best shot, or to trigger an event to unlock a new area. I'll admit though, trying to figure out how to find and catch all of the Pokemon available is pretty fun, and annoying, but triggering these events are varied enough to make each level feel like it's alive. Despite having to go through each stage on a restricted path, once you have access to these items, you do feel like you have a good amount of say on what happens, and I admit, knocking a Charmeleon into the lava just to evolve it is pretty funny despite how cruel and fucked up it is when you think, oh my god, I'm a fucking murderer! But these are some of the reasons why I felt the game can get addicting, but it gets old very quickly. Especially when the game forces you to go through each stage one more fucking time just to catch a picture of Pokemon structures before you can move on to the final stage. Totally not padding. This is the real deal.
Boobies, 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 boobies.
Ugh, I always thought this part was such bull, even as a kid, because you can take pictures of these structures as you play normally, but because the developers knew this game was very short, they made the game basically tell the player to go suck a dick and wait for Oak to tell you to take these pictures. Luckily, this game is pretty short, so by the time you're about to say I'm over it, chances are you're already taking the final picture of Mew, so this is probably one of the few times where a game being too short is a good thing. And that's pretty much all I can say about this game. I know it sounds like I'm half-assing this review, but there's just not a whole lot to talk about. It was a beautiful looking game, and it was great to see Pokemon in a more natural setting, which was a nice distraction that wowed us back when it first came out, and let's face it, we ate up anything with the Pokemon brand, but in terms of gameplay, only a niche audience would be into a game like this nowadays. I know a lot of people say they should make a sequel for the Wii U since it could take advantage of its controller to pull you into the experience more, and while I do agree on paper, that sounds like a brilliant idea. But I'm betting most of the people who have fond memories of this game played it now, they get bored of it quickly and question why they like this game in the first place. But I don't know, maybe that's just me and I could be wrong on the matter. Pokemon Snap isn't a bad game. It set out what it wanted to do perfectly, and there wasn't any real bugs or glitches, and it was fairly polished. But in my opinion, the only reason why this game is still relevant, because for a lot of people, it represents just how awesome and important the Pokemon phenomenon was when it came into existence. But realistically, there's a reason why we haven't seen a follow-up to Pokemon Snap. Now, I could be wrong, and we might be getting one for the 20th anniversary, but at this point, I'm kind of doubting it, and quite honestly, I wouldn't miss it or be upset if we didn't get one. But with that in mind, the review is done. You guys have a good one, and don't worry, there's no more male booby shots that you gotta worry about.